Welcome to the Tinderbox. We are the podcast for Matchsticks and Gasoline, the Calgary Flames website for SB Nation. Mark, Michael, Gordie this afternoon here on our maiden voyage with our video podcast, so you all get to see what we look like as we entertain you with Flames hockey. How are we all doing this afternoon?
Fantastic.
Not too bad.
Everybody's like, this is weird. So let's just hop right in. The Flames had the 5 games in 7 days last week. We all said if they went 3-2, that'd be a pretty good week. They went 3-2. I didn't mind last night's game. I don't know about you guys. I kind of figured that was going to be one of those games, the end of a marathon week. They fall to the Avalanche 3-0. They looked tired, but I don't think they played that poorly during that game.
No, the shots on goal were really good. They looked fine for, as Daryl said it, a borderline illegal week. So, I mean, it's Colorado. Of all the 5 teams they played, even with Tampa Bay and some other pretty good ones, like that was the big matchup of the weekend right at the end, and it was still an okay performance. Darcy Kuemper played really well.
Michael, looking at it, I think probably Dan Vladar would like to have 1 goal back. I think the first goal that McKinnon scored kind of squeezed by him, probably a shot he should have saved. But I thought Vladar was really good last night. He actually kept the Flames in that game while they were battling when it was 1-0.
Yeah, I thought he made a number of really, really good saves last night, and I still think it's strange that like they've played them twice now, and Markstrom hasn't seen either of them. I would imagine he gets that third start, but yeah, Vladar was really all you could ask from a starting goalie, let alone your backup goalie on with the team on a back-to-back with travel, with losing an hour of sleep too. Like it was all you could expect from him, and perhaps even more. And like Gordie said, like I don't really have any issues with how the team played. Like Colorado got 1 power play goal, 1 kind of weird face-off goal, and that was it. Kuemper had a great game, but I think most nights they're right there the whole way. So yeah, no issues at all. They went 3-2 this week, and I think they just move on now.
Yeah, and that's what Daryl Sutter said at the end of the game too. He's like, I had no problem with us tonight. I thought we were fine. And I think that has to be expected. You technically, if you want, you could have started that week with the Colorado game where they beat the Avalanche. But then you had to roll. You had Edmonton, you had Tampa, you had Washington, you had Detroit, and then this game. Like it was a tough spread that the Flames had coming through there. So again, you never like to see the team lose, but like we all say, they're not going to go 82-0. They're not going to win every game the rest of the way out. So, I mean, if you have to lose to somebody, they played Colorado, they played them tough. I had no issues last night. Michael Stone's been in for the last 2 games. Oliver Shillington. Michael, you were talking about a couple weeks ago. You thought he looked like something was off with his skating. He was just falling down. He didn't look good. I thought Stone, other than the face-off goal where he kind of gave the puck to Colorado, I thought Michael Stone, for having not played since December 6th, looked pretty good when he was out there for 2 games.
Yeah, I think he's been, again, kind of just what you expect a 7th defenseman to be. Like he'll come in for a couple games, he'll play pretty well, and then he'll disappear back in the press box for a month. So I don't know. I kind of would like to see them play Mackey if he's actually be called up, but I get the sense this whole thing was kind of just like a 1-day kind of paper transaction. Like I would doubt Ruzicki even went to Stockton, but I don't know. I thought Stone was fine. I thought like compared to what we were expecting and what we've seen in the past, I thought they were actually 2 of his better games. Like he seemed, although like playing with Chris Tanev, like you'll pretty much always look good, but like I thought he didn't really like make any mistakes that were too glaring, and he fit in pretty well for being out for as long as he had been.
And Gordie, that Ruzicka gets the trip down because he didn't have to clear waivers. Brett Ritchie would have had to clear waivers. Was there any panic that Brett Ritchie was not going to clear waivers? Or if he did, like someone was going to take him? Like, really?
Well, apparently they're a little worried at least or something, because they're not even trying to put him on there. I think me and Mike have been discussing it. It's hopefully just Ruzicka's just a paper move. He never actually went anywhere, but yeah, Brett Ritchie he's got dirt on Sutter or something, because I'm not too sure what he's bringing to the lineup at this point. He's just a body.
I mean, there was some talk, dude, like, well, he hasn't been that bad. Well, you can't get worse than no points in 29 games. Like, it doesn't really get in, and you're a -6. If it was golf, he'd be fantastic. In hockey, he's not very good. So yeah, but I mean, I guess if Brett Ritchie being bad is our biggest complaint so far this season, I guess life's not so bad as a Calgary Flames fan, right? Jacob Markstrom, 2nd star of the week. He was the 2nd star of the month for last month, and prior to that, it was February 14th of February 1st, he was the first star of the week in the NHL. Last week, 3-0-0, a .67 goals against average, and a .974 save percentage. I mean, not a lot of heavy lifting in that Detroit game, I think, for anybody. But what a performance from Markstrom this week, Michael. He gets his 9th shutout. He's, that close to tying Kipper's record, which I'm sure anybody that saw Kippersoft get those 10 shutouts thought there's no way that record is ever going to be broken or approached. Yet here we are.
Yeah, totally. I think we're probably witnessing a pretty historical season for the Flames with Markstrom. Like he should have had that other one in the Edmonton game too, like that goal that went right off the ref right in front of the net. Like that was the most frustrating part. And with Markstrom, these shutouts seem to kind of come in stretch, like in strings. Like he usually gets like 2 or 3 over 5 or 6 games, then it's off for a bit. So hopefully he can break it maybe this week. I think they have like 5 non-playoff teams coming up, so maybe they can string 1 or 2 in there. But yeah, no, for Markstrom, it's just super solid. Like he's had a few stretches where he started to like kind of look like he was getting tired, but full credit to the Flames. They got him a lot of rest this week, even with the 5 games and 7 nights, which I think like kind of pushed Sutter's hand. Like he had to rest him at that point. But
yeah,
I think still just like getting him that rest. They have a few days off now. I think if the Flames can hopefully lock things up, at least in the division, at least with home ice in the playoffs pretty quickly here, like he should get a lot of rest down the stretch and be pretty good going into the playoffs.
Absolutely. And it's like we saw him last year. And we're like, okay, he's pretty good. The contract was pretty big. You kind of get, but seeing what we've gotten out of him this season, Gordie, he's just there's games where he just looks unflappable. Like nothing bothers him while he's out there. And even like the other night, he was playing the puck just because he was bored. When there was nothing happening. Detroit had like, was it 5 shots through 2 periods? So, but on the flip side, we'll go to Dan Vladar. Vladar started 3 out of the last 6, something like that. He's been in after not being in for a while, kind of like Michael Stone. And I think you're looking at that schedule, we could probably see Vladar a couple more times with what Calgary has coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks. And it's not heavy lifting for them because they've got a lot of days off.
Yeah, like with how they've deployed Vladar, having 2 of these last 3 starts be against Colorado, like he's fared so well for how sporadically he's played in these last couple months. I know he was getting thrown under the bus a little bit for that loss in Washington, and I mean he did give up 4 goals, but it really felt like the Flames probably had their worst game of the week, I'd say, in that game. Like the Dowd goal, the Mantha goal, like those ones where it looks like he just got beat. Like Washington was just getting some uncontested shots, like really good quality shots in the slot. Lindholm kind of got burned by Dowd on the winning goal, or I guess it wasn't the winning goal, but the the one that set it up. But yeah, like Vladar, the way they've deployed him this week was really good. Like they needed to get Markstrom some rest with an insane schedule. I was a little worried with how little he had to do against Detroit that, Sutter would pull the old, put him back in because he didn't get enough action move. But like, I'm starting to agree with Sutter maybe. Like Vladar just looks very different on the road than at home. He's much more comfortable, it seems, in other teams' arenas. He looked a little uncomfortable in the net against Washington the other night. But I mean, as they come down the stretch here and they build a little bit of a cushion against their divisional opponents, it'd be nice to see Vladar get a few more starts than he's been getting, and maybe get into some more situations where they're not totally comfortable playing him yet.
Yeah, and honestly, that game against the Capitals still as a team, like I get it, he hadn't been in a while, but you look at Saturday, they beat the Avalanche in overtime in Colorado. Then they fly home. Monday, they got the Oilers. That's a huge game. They win 3-1. And then Washington's waiting for them right there on a back-to-back. Like I didn't necessarily mind the loss. They looked a little tired. They looked like they weren't really in it. And I know they're athletes. They never use that. You heard them last night. They were trying to get Chris Tanev to basically say, you guys were tired last night, right? And he was like, well, everybody's tired. At this point in the season, everybody's been worked. So I didn't have a problem with that. And you look at what's coming up. If you're Vladar, you got to like, hey, we got the Devils, Sabres, Canucks, Coyotes, Sharks. Can I get a bone in there? Can I get one of those games so like I can suit up against the Sabres and have an easy game as opposed to giving Markstrom those. But I wouldn't mind seeing Markstrom playing at Vancouver and tie Kipper's record if he could get a shutout against his old team. Michael, your thoughts on that schedule coming up? It's like the schedule gods crammed everything into Calgary that was tough, and now they've got a little bit of breathing room. The schedule, April's still going to be a busy month, so is the end of March. But like I said, Devils, Sabres, Canucks, Sharks, Coyotes before they get Edmonton, Colorado. It's a nice little right?
Well, yeah, in theory it is. Hopefully they can. That's one thing. If it was any other season, I've been like, well, they're going to lose like 4 or 5 now. But so far this year, they've still taken care of business against bad teams, which they haven't always done. So I think they should be okay. Like I think it's a nice little break. Like they did play a lot of good teams here the last 2.5 weeks. So to get this chance, like if they can get, I would say you've got to get at least 8 of 10 in this stretch here, just to really kind of keep things chugging along. Like 6 would probably be fine, but yeah, no, it's a nice break for them. And then I think things do get a little bit tougher kind of going into April, but hopefully they can kind of use these games now to really keep pulling away from the pack. Like they're still, I think, 5 points up on the Kings with 2 games in hand. And last night was the first time in a while the Kings gained any ground on them because the Kings did win, the Flames lost. But at this point, it is like a pretty comfortable perch kind of in the top of the Pacific. Although I think last night kind of dispelled any shot the Flames really had at potentially catching Colorado, barring them falling off a cliff here. So
Yeah.
I don't know. On one hand, like I think they're in a pretty good spot going down the stretch, but like we kind of saw the same thing in 2018-19 where they got their spot solidified pretty early and they kind of coasted into the playoffs. So I think that's the only thing that Sutter's going to have to watch kind of as we get into the last 10-15 games of the season, that he just has them prepared and still playing at the same level, because as we saw, like game 1 of the playoffs, it's a totally different animal. Even with Sutter hockey, like they can't afford 1 or 2 games to get back up to speed if they're clinched like top of the division with 10+ games left.
Yeah, and it's hard to go into the playoffs too. You can't really. It's not like the NFL where you rest all your starters like the last week or two if you've done like, if you've clinched already. Like you can't really like. It would be tough to sit Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Kachuk, right? Going in. I mean, you got to manage those guys, Gordie. You can't just throw them out there and then God forbid 2 of them get hurt in a game. Then the season's the roller coaster, the train's gone off the tracks. But you have to be smart about it as well. But you also can't coast into the playoffs because then you're in a different mindset. You'd be like, oh yeah, it's been easy the last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, like if you compare like this isn't the first season in ever that the Flames have had some regular season success, but like Mike said, the difference between like this season and potentially 18-19 or even 16-17 was like the Flames had that 10-game win streak in 2017, and then they were just abysmal the rest of the season and just kind of coasted into the playoffs. 18-19, that top line, Gaudreau, Monahan, Lindholm, like they really fell apart in those last couple weeks and stopped scoring, and that translated into the playoffs. So, I mean, you can rest your starters, that top line, the last game of the season, something like that. But like carrying this momentum and keeping this style of play that they've had going beyond these streaks and these hot flashes is really the key in differentiating themselves between some of these other teams that have been decent in Calgary these past couple of years.
Yeah, and honestly, you look towards, that last month of April as the season winds down. Say we'll go last 2 weeks. You got Nashville, Dallas, Vancouver, Nashville, Minnesota, Winnipeg. Not murderer's row, but not easy. It's not an easy stretch. They got back to back with the Kraken, which will, that'll be a nice reprieve. But Michael, you said, coming into April, it's tough. It's Edmonton, Colorado, LA, St. Louis, LA, Anaheim. That's another tough stretch for them. So they really can't take their foot off the gas. And they finally have somebody behind the bench that I don't think is going to allow that to happen. Not saying that that's something that, Gulletson would have done or something that Jeff Ward would have done. But like, I sense that like, other than, Gulletson throwing sticks into the stands at practice, probably was the most staged tirade of all time. Like, I just don't see them, like, if they have a couple of bad games in a row, Sutter's going to be on them. Practice is not going to be easy, right? So I think it's going to be tough for them to coast with the coach they have. So I don't know, just our thoughts. Anyway, well, you have something? Good.
Oh no,
Okay.
I was just very much in agreement with what you were saying.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Awesome. So Austin Matthews gets a 2-game suspension today. I haven't seen Leafs Twitter today. I'm sure it's awesome. It's probably a dumpster on fire floating down river, like just a hot mess, because Austin Matthews is first-time offender. He shouldn't have anything. He should have been fined. Nah, dude, he like literally cross-checked the dude like in the neck head area. I think 2 games is enough for that because Matthews is a star. He's the straw that stirs the drink in Toronto. Gordie, you cool with 2, or should it have been more?
It's nice to see these stars kind of get the same treatment as everybody else. It's a brutal cross check to his head. They're outdoors, so I know that hurt a little extra. Like we talked about it last week, like Nathan McKinnon should have been suspended and probably suspended heavily for slashing that referee. Like ask Dennis Weidman if he intended to hit that ref all those years ago. Like there's no concern about intent in hockey. He did it. Like the punishment has to fit the crime. So 2 games is good. Anything above a fine, I was going to be happy with. The fines are such a joke in the NHL. Like it teaches you nothing. No one learns from that. So it's deserved. I'm glad to see them hand it out and like just keep that consistency for other stuff and for all players.
Yeah, and a fine for him, what's he make? He makes what, $10 or $11 million a year. If he gets fined the league maximum for that, according to the CBA, it's nothing. It's like change he finds in the couch cushion to pay the fine. So yeah, I'm with you. I think 2 games is great because obviously he's frustrated. The Leafs they're struggling. Their goaltending has gone right into the tank. They've lost some games due to some bad calls, some no calls. So I get it that he's frustrated, but Michael, it was just ugly for like one of the guys the league is trying to promote and just one of the stars to see that happen on a big stage like that.
Yeah, I think like I was kind of honestly expecting maybe an extra game on top of like just the two. Like it was kind of a weird play in that like he definitely did it, but like we've seen other similar plays kind of be let off too this year. Like it's kind of been a weird mix of they've either been very on top of suspending things or there's been a lot more thing. To me, it feels like they've let like a lot more like 1 to 2 game things go this year than in past years. Like it feels like when we've seen a suspension, it's been like the bigger incidents like Lemieux biting Kachuk and stuff like that. Like it seems like we haven't seen quite as many of those like, oh, it was a bad slash, like you get a game or something like that. So I don't know. I was expecting like honestly closer like 3 or 4 for Matthews, but yeah, it was just an ugly play. Like again, whether the intent was there or not, like you just can't cross check a guy in the head. Like I know he got ran into that, and the Leafs fans would be like, "Oh, he didn't really start as much," but like you still have to know the point of like no return and like getting a cross check high like that. It's not going to end well because like if it doesn't hit the head, it hits the neck. So like maybe just don't do that. Like if you want to like throw a punch, even throw a punch honestly, because like that doesn't seem to get the same kind of suspension anymore that like cross checking a guy does. So no, I'm all with it. I think it was definitely the right call to suspend him. No, Twitter kind of seems like well, obviously Leafs fans are always melting down, so like that and losing to Buffalo is just not a great weekend for them, and having to travel to Hamilton, which is also not a great time. So, like I thought it was like the right call, and yeah, it's just weird. It just to me we haven't seen a lot of these shorter suspensions this year, so I'm glad we're kind of hopefully going to see maybe a few more if they start to crack down again before the playoffs.
I'd like to be in the support group meeting at the end of the season for Leafs and Oilers fans if it all goes bad, just to be a fly on the wall to see how it goes. Yeah, and Leafs Twitter will say that it was his neck's fault for getting in the way. It's not Matthew's fault. So that's just how it works. So yeah, all right, that takes care of that. What else we got here on the list? Outdoor games. This comes from that game, Sabres and Leafs in the outdoor game. More frustration for the Leafs fans as they lose outdoors to Buffalo. Are the outdoor games do they have the pageantry? Do you guys think that they used to have, or are they kind of just losing it because I forgot there was even a game that was outdoor this weekend? Gordie, what are your thoughts on them? Are there too many? Did the NHL put too many of them out there at the start and kind of devalue the pageantry and excitement that is an outdoor game?
Yeah, it was almost like a war on 2 fronts because they've drastically increased the number of them in the past couple of years and really diluted it down. But then at the same time, it also feels like they promote these games like way less than they ever have. Like there's been not maybe necessarily the Toronto one, but there's been games in these past couple of years where I genuinely didn't know they happened until like highlights are being posted because, with LA, San Jose, like those kind of smaller outdoor games, like very little advertising to the general NHL public that it's happening, tune in on TV. So they've kind of lost their specialness for me. But I mean, like me and Mike and a couple other buddies went to that Regina game in 2019. And as an experience, it's amazing. It's an incredible way to watch hockey. But I mean, if you're doing it all the time, it kind of reduces the uniqueness of the event.
Michael, what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I'm with Gordie on it. I think the NHL they've totally dropped the ball on like any kind of marketing for these games. Like at least up here in Canada, for like whenever they do like the Stadium Series games in the US, like I don't even know they're happening until they've happened, unless a team releases a terrible jersey for it. Like that's the only time we've even like noticed that it's going on, is like when Nashville came out with their jersey this year, stuff like that.
Well, the year
So
the Flyers and Penguins went with those yellow and black and orange and black, just hideous uniforms. Continue.
yeah, exactly. Like that's the only time it's even a talking point. Like I guess when the Winter Classic is, it's usually January 1st, so that's easier to figure out, and like you kind of expect there to be a game. But any of those Stadium Series games, you don't even know it's happening. Like the Heritage Classic, even like this past one with the Leafs, like I would say anybody that's not very, very like plugged into hockey and like on the Twitter all the time, like there was really nothing even in Canada about it going on. And again, I know Leafs fans would have been into it, but yeah, I think they're just totally dropping the ball on any chance to market this. Like if you look at how the NHL even scheduled yesterday, there was like I think 10 or 11 games yesterday, but then there's one today. Why wouldn't you have put like 4 or 5 of those today and then made the Heritage game more of like a spectacle or something? Like it just, I think unless they're just not seeing the return on the television for these outdoor games, which they could not be at this point just because of how much the interest is kind of waned, like they really need to put some more effort into marketing it, because it's a mess right now with like you don't know what's going on, and for like that to be one of your premier events of the season, it makes it hard to really believe in the NHL outside of like people who are already established fans of the game.
Now, off the top of my head, something I just thought of, and I don't even know if they could do it. What if they did the All-Star game as an outdoor game? Find a city that's, you could do it. You could do it Edmonton, you could do it Calgary, you could do it Toronto, you could do it in Boston, you could, if it's cold enough, you could do it in Philly. I mean, it all depends on, time frame. The game is usually in February, so it's got to be something. You're not going to do it in Florida, or Vegas, so that cuts out those markets. But I don't know, maybe do the All-Star game outside as an outdoor game. That could be kind of fun. Maybe, no?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I really like when people throw out that they like the All-Star games need to be when they test out new rules and stuff too. Like let us see that. Like if they weren't so boring all the time with their planning and got some fresh ideas like these like in their office, like I mean these events would be a lot more watchable and a lot more marketable.
While we're on topic of the Sabres, seeing they just played, not something we planned on discussing, but it just came into my head. How about Jack Eichel the other night after that game? Vegas, and he's so salty, but I kind of liked it. The Flames fans like, that's why we don't want him. He's such a jerk. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That was great. I loved it. He's just like, oh wow, it just took me leaving for them to get excited. That's awesome. You guys have any thoughts on Eichel's return to Buffalo, where against the Sabres, where they lose, and then he just goes off on the fan base afterwards?
Yeah, hockey needs more personality, regardless of what guys say. They need more guys like Jack Eichel and their stars to just speak from the top of their minds and not use the pre-recorded hockey answers. Like it's regardless of what Eichel says, regardless of what you think of that, like just to hear him speak his unfiltered mind is awesome. Like that's what this sport needs more of. So yeah, I also if you think that's a good reason why Eichel didn't come to Calgary, like that's just stupidity.
Yeah, I mean he's playing well, but the Vegas Golden Knights haven't since he's come in. So maybe chemistry does mean something when you drop Markstrom out of your lineup and you fire Eichel in there. Michael, your thoughts on Eichel's little post game, not tirade, but his not so subtle jab at the Buffalo fan base?
Hey, I'm all for it just because I think, like Gordie said, it's good for the game. I think we need a bit more. I think we should be like interviewing guys like right after they come off the ice after like a fight or something. Like just get the emotional statements, like get the things that are grab headlines. Because at this point, you need the NHL to grab headlines. So, like I guarantee that probably grabbed the biggest headline of the week for like some of the U.S. markets, like Eichel trashing his former city. And yeah, no, I watched that game, and it was pretty fun to watch Peyton Krebs and Alex Tuch score against their former team, and then Eichel throw that comment at the end of it. Like he just guaranteed the next time they're there that it'll be sold out probably, and he'll be getting it the whole game. And you know what? That's good for hockey if that's gathering some attention. And then on a side note, like after watching Buffalo like a little bit more lately, like they get a goalie, a couple pieces before next year. Like I wouldn't be shocked if they find a way into the playoffs. Just on a side note, like I know the East is stacked, but they're looking scary, and I'm kind of excited to see how the Flames play against them on I think Friday.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I love the personality thing. It's like wrestling when the baby face turns heel. I know everybody's like, oh no, it's terrible. And like watching Eichel just flip like that was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But to go to your talk about, how you want to interview these guys like emotionally right afterwards, like and this is a test, put put a guy in the middle of the ice in between the penalty boxes, and you interview Evander Kane and Matthew Tkachuk right after their scrum, and they can have a conversation with each other. Like, how great would that be? That'd be like audio gold watching those two go at it, Or mic up guys when they fight. Like, hold on, you're gonna fight? All right, put a mic on, go, and just listen to like the conversation before and after. Make them. It's very Fox-esque. That's a very Fox thing. Puck trackers and microphone fights.
Yeah, totally. I think they need like some kind of pay-per-view service where it's like you got the benches mic'd up, you got the players mic'd up, and just completely unfiltered. Like I know the CFL did like a mic'd up coaches thing for a couple of years, and they ended up bleeping out half it, and the other half was them calling plays that you couldn't understand. So it was so fun. I just think, throw a couple of mics in the penalty boxes, throw some on the bench, throw a few more rink level, and you pay a little extra for this service completely unfiltered. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Like,
I want to hear what Sutter's saying when he goes, no, every time an official skates by. Gordie, you look like you wanted to say, do you have a thought on like some sort of insane, like mic'd up, like penalty box stuff?
Yeah, like I just want to know what guys are saying to Matthew Tkachuk on a nightly basis. Like when a former teammate like Garnet Hathaway's having to punch him in the face at the side of the net. Like I really want to know what goes on in those net front scrums. Like if they do like an NHL after dark thing where it's just uncensored, unfiltered. You get everything these guys are saying. Like that'd be an awesome experience.
I want to know what Michael Backlund said to Mark Giordano to warrant a cross check at the end of the game. What Gio said to him, because I don't think Michael Backlund even talks on the ice. So that would have been fun to see. But yeah, so I'm the Eichel thing. I'm all in. I think it's absolutely hysterical. And they do like the referees are mic'd up anyway. Like they had that slip up the other night. I was like, might have been a couple of weeks ago where an official came to the box to send somebody in, and the guy said something. What did he do? He's like, "You shut the." And then he clicked his mic off real quick. I was like, no, let it go. That's awesome. That's what we're all here for. That's what we're paying for. So, all right, we'll get into the stands now, because the stands are where always, all the fun stuff happens. I mean, unless you're at a Bruins game and, Terry O'Reilly climbs into the stands and beats the snot out of you in full gear. This was brought up with you guys. I have the baseball side of it, the hockey thing. Grownups asking for autograph sticks from players. Gordie, go.
It's just a bad look when, every kid in the crowd and stuff, is, they're the deserving ones. They're who's really going to benefit the most out of it. So, like, I mean, if somehow a stick gets into your possession, fine, but like actively begging against the glass during warm up or whatever, it's a little uncomfortable to see, quite honestly.
Michael, go.
Yeah, it just seems like there's more and more of it this year. And again, if it's a kid, I don't really care too much. But like on the flip side, my opinion is also like if you're at a game and like Gordie said, a stick, a puck, a ball finds its way to you, I also don't think you should have to give it to kid. Like that guy who got like the Lindholm stick through the camera hole that game. Like, I'm sorry, you got stabbed with a stick through the glass. I think you should get to keep that. Like, if you catch a home run ball with your bare hand, because I know like you're the anti-baseball, like bring your glove guy, like. If you catch a home run ball or a foul ball line drive with your bare hand, I'm sorry, I think you should get to keep that. Same like if you get hit in the side of the head with the puck, I think that's your puck. I'm not.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think the signs have gotten like it seems like every game like it's just the whole like ring around the glass. It just seems a bit more than it used to be. But at the same time, like if it's kids, I don't care. But the adults doing that, I just can't. There's something about it that just seems like the dogs begging for table scraps thing. And it's just like, why are you doing that? Like, I just can't get behind it.
It's like, it's my 46th birthday and I just got over a sinus infection. Erica Branson, will you sign your helmet for me? Like that stuff drives me nuts. Like I'm all with the kids. Like, if there's a kid on you see it all the time. Like, I just, got out of chemo. I just beat this. Absolutely. Give the kid a puck, give the kid a stick, give him your jersey, whatever. But as you were getting to the point, Michael, I hate watching baseball and seeing some stupid grown man who's like 55 years old. If he's sitting with his kid, protecting his kid, okay, cut him some slack, but like you're an adult. Don't bring a baseball glove to a game. There's no chance manager's going to turn around like, you, section 7, we need an extra outfielder. Let's go. Like, you're an idiot. Like, put the glove down and just watch the game. I hate that. I think 12 is probably the cutoff age for kids. Like once you're out of little league and you're moving on, it's like you're over 7, you shouldn't put ketchup on a hot dog. These are the hills I'm willing to die on. Okay, but like, plus I hate the baseball glove thing, but I'm with you. Like to see like a grown man or woman begging somebody for like their stick or something is just like, I'm like, come on, like, get over it. It's almost like after an NFL game when you see like the 2-star quarterbacks trading jerseys, and I'm like, no, you're competitors. You don't trade jerseys with each other. What's wrong with you people? So yeah, I
I'd
think we all.
say I'll just say the one exception to that maybe is if like you're an away fan and the other team's rink, and I think the players sometimes like to see maybe like some like hometown support or something.
Yeah.
Like there was the one I think where Keith went back to Chicago or whatever, and the woman was begging for a stick. He threw her a stick, and the kid beside her was just bursting into tears until he got his own stick. So yeah, it's a bad look overall a lot of the time.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on that, Michael? As we chastise adults for trying to be children.
No, yeah, like I said, my only, I think, exception to the rule is if you physically catch the puck or the ball or the stick. If it hits the ground, you got to give it to a kid. But if you catch the foul ball with your bare hands, if you catch the puck, I think you earn the right to keep the puck. That's my only opinion on that part of it.
All in. I completely agree. Officiating. We'll wrap up with this. The officiating in the NHL has been, well, is suspect a good word to use? Inconsistent, bad. We can keep going down the line. Nikita Zadorov has carved a path at every rink on the way to the penalty box lately. For just, I feel like he's taken he's got to have like 5 high sticking penalties in like the last 3 or 4 games. But officiating overall, like you're seeing guys in overtime like getting hooked, getting slashed, getting held, not getting calls, which leads to breakouts at the other end. Goaltender interference has always been one where everybody just kind of goes, nobody has any idea what that is. Michael, officiating this season, how do you fix it? Can you fix it? Is it just human error and that's just part of life?
I just think we talk about this all the time. They're at least we talk about with players, but they're in playoff mode. These refs, baby, like they're just calling nothing and mouthing off to guys, and they're ready to go for playoffs. But yeah, seriously though, like there's just been, it seems like there's so many things being missed that are like the obvious ones this year too. Like I don't mind if they call a game closer to the playoffs where it's like really you only call it if it's like directly leading to a scoring chance or stopping a scoring chance and letting more of it go. But because I know we all hate the games where it's like both teams get like 5 power plays and there's like 2 or 3 ticky tacks per side. So like I don't mind if they let it go a bit more, but it seems like their willingness to put away the whistles later in games has kind of increased more and more over like this season, and it's costing teams points. It's giving teams points. Like I know in the Edmonton-Washington game, like I can't remember which Oiler it was, but got just completely hooked trying to get towards the empty net by TJ Oshie, and then the Capitals turn around and score with 0.8 seconds left. So I just think it's one of those things that you're not going to be able to fix it. Like I don't think we're going to see AI officials, or like we don't want them calling down from the booth every time there should or shouldn't be a penalty. So I think they're still human, but they just got to be a little bit better. I think there's a little bit more or a little bit more chance for some kind of punishment or some kind of like at least acknowledgement that there were missed calls from the league would be nice. But yeah, there's just nothing going on with them right now where it's like if they make a mistake, you don't even like, at least in the NBA sometimes if there's like a mistake, you see them come back the next day and put out like a press release like this call was a mistake with however much time left and will be better or something. Like there's just nothing from the NHL, and I think that culture where there's no real punishment for like missing something or getting something wrong needs to at least be changed somewhat.
Especially with 4 of them on the ice. And honestly, I think the 4 is too, like it clutters up the ice. You see it, like Gaudreau hits the official with the puck the other day and starts screaming at them, and the referee starts screaming back at him. Like, how did you hit me with a puck? You had the whole ring. But then, the puck goes off the official skate. Edmonton scores. There goes Markstrom shutout. Like, it's like there's 4 of them out there. I know linesmen aren't, they can, if the video, they can suggest like, hey, this happened, but they can't call penalties. They're there for icing and offside and whatnot. But like, I don't know, with 4 of them on the ice court, it shouldn't be that hard to make calls, right?
Yeah, and it's maybe not that they're not seeing stuff. It's like maybe more than ever, the refs just seem so afraid to have like a significant impact on the outcome of the game. And it's just the inconsistency of calls where like the NHL comes out these last couple of years and tells us they're gonna like pretty much cut down completely on slashing, but we still see guys whack each other with their sticks. Like that only happens in the NHL. Nobody plays like that in lower leagues really. They still push each other with their sticks. cross-check style, and they'll call it sometimes, and it's just the inconsistency, and then sometimes not calling stuff has as much of an out or impact as calling a penalty with a couple seconds left. And yeah, I mean, getting out of the way has been a big problem too. Like you guys mentioned that goal that Edmonton got, where, I mean, I get that the ref is, he's not supposed to be watching the puck on that play, but he has to be aware of where the puck is when he's watching, for penalties and stuff, because he's the ref. And then, I mean, Trevor Lewis dumps that puck in the other night and just clocks the linesman in the side of the head, and he has to leave the game. Like, it's just such a fast game, and 4 guys added on top of 10 skaters. It's a really, really cluttered area around there. I've always wondered if there'd be a way that you could have kind of refs outside of the playing surface, but I mean, then you'd still need somebody to govern scrums and stuff. But there's really no easy answer to this. And I mean, every other sport on planet Earth hates their officials too, and thinks it can be done a different way. So it's just always going to kind of be the nature of sport. It's unfortunate, but I mean, those guys are doing their best effort every night.
Yeah, I don't watch basketball, so I couldn't tell you what the NBA is like. But I mean, when you look at the NHL, the NFL, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, when the NHL is like the shining star out of those sports, it's kind of because the NFL officials are bad. Major League Baseball umpires are just atrocious. I mean, at some point there's going to be the AI umpire behind the plate or behind the mound with the computerized strike zone. It's coming eventually. That'll be on the next CBA when they make the bases 4 feet wide, as opposed to as big as they are. But hey, quickly, baseball's back, so that's good. I just got the email saying my MLB has taken my money for my MLB TV subscription, so hooray for me. I got that going for me. No game tonight. Calgary's off until Wednesday next, when they are home against the lowly New Jersey Devils, along with the Buffalo Sabres and the Vancouver Canucks. That one is in Vancouver. So 3 games this week. It's almost like a nice reprieve. Calgary gets a few days off. Anything you guys want to add before we get out of here? You got anything in Gordie's corner? We got
Yeah, I think we were gonna bash the Wave on top of
go.
stick stuff as well.
Yeah,
it's
go
just,
have it.
It's just like it feels like we're just hating on so much fun stuff not long after saying we need more personality in the game. But the Wave is just, it doesn't fit hockey anymore. Like when you're not watching a playoff game, like everyone's sitting down, and if you're trying to watch the play and all of a sudden the 30 people are fully blocking your view in the middle of play, like that's not too fun. And I mean, especially in the city of Calgary, we have unfortunately seen way too many circumstances where it genuinely seems to distract the players or something, and a late goal or a big hit or something like just switches the momentum. And it's just, I don't know where the Wave started, but I would be fine with it ending here.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Wave started someplace stupid like Fenway Park, where they sing Sweet Caroline in between every inning, every 7th inning stretch, whatever it is, which for the record is a song by Neil Diamond about a child, it's about Caroline Kennedy as a kid. It's such a weird dynamic where that's the song that the Red Sox choose to sing. And I'm like, first off, it's stupid. And second of all, it's a grown man singing a tribute song to a child. That's just weird. And I'm with you on the Wave. The Wave sucks. Michael, go. Follow that up. Have fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I used to be more like against it, but I don't know. For me, I think the only time the Wave is acceptable is like you have to be up by at least 3 goals with less than 3 minutes left, maybe 4. Like it's got to be one of those games where it's like you're for sure winning. Anything like a smaller lead or like more time left, and I think you're pushing it. Like it's got to be like that thing you do at the end of a big win. Like I don't really like it either, but I can at least live with it because it is somewhat fun when people get going with it. But yeah, no, you've got to do it late in the game, up by like 3+ goals, because otherwise it's like Gordie said, it's a distraction, and I don't know, it's just for me, like it seems like every time we remember seeing the Flames fans do a Wave with like 10 minutes left, they're up by like a goal or 2, it feels like they've lost like every one of those games. So like final few minutes, up by 3, go nuts. Anything other than that, sit the hell down. Let's win this game and go home.
Can 04 be blamed on the Wave? It pushed the puck back as everybody went back. Can we throw that on there? Yeah, I'm with you. I just think the Wave, it's like getting in a time machine back to like the that's such a mid 1980s thing. Like it's just like I don't get it. I don't understand the Wave. I think it's stupid. I think, Gordie, what was your quote? Every seat should be electrified. Is that what it was?
Yeah, the seats detect you standing up, and upon sitting back down, yeah, you're just fried in your chair.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. All right, NHL. We got some proposals. Officials off the ice, electrified chairs, outdoor all-star games, mic'd up fights. We got a lot going on here. We should approach the commish and hand over our ideas to him and see what he has to say. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up here on this episode of the Tinderbox. If you enjoyed this, you can find us on Google Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Just search up Matchsticks and Gasoline, and you can find past episodes of this podcast and all of our other podcasts out there. No Flames tonight again. They're back on the ice Wednesday night against the New Jersey Devils at home at 8 p.m. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the Tinderbox.